there are, at the time of this recording, 2,921,708 podcasts. If you have an opinion and an internet connection, you can have a podcast. I've spent hours wasting my time searching through titles just to end up with nothing. There had to be a better way. Over the past 5 years, I've been on a mission, and I found the holy grail of podcasts for fitness, money, and faith that actually gave me the results that I wanted. So let's dive in. First up, Mind Pump, a fitness podcast. The fitness community has a lot of tribes, and this is the one that I belong to and always will, because it gave me the best results with the least amount of effort. Fitness tribes that I've been a part of in the past that didn't work for me include keto, fasted cardio, intermittent fasting, always being in a caloric deficit, and 5-day-a-week training. None of these gave me sustainable results. They not only understand the science, but they understand regular people and what works for regular people. What I learned from them is that your metabolism fluctuates. So doing things like constantly being in a caloric deficit and doing a lot of HIIT training could actually work against you. I learned that if you want to lose weight, the best thing that you can do is focus on building muscle. I learned that it's best for my body to only work out 3 times per week and focus on full body workouts. For me, it's the results and the quality of life. I will warn you though, these guys can sometimes go on tangents on conspiracy theories, which is usually entertaining, but even sometimes I have to fast forward. Okay, next up, the Dave Ramsey Podcast, a podcast about money. Okay, for this one, I have to tell you a story that I tell to everybody when we get talking about money and marriage. So a couple years ago, I was reading through my journals and I came upon this entry that I think is hilarious now looking back. It said something to the extent of, "Man, God was so good to us this year. We made $160,000 and it only took us 7 months to pay off our car. And the car that we owned was $6,000. It was a Hyundai Elantra." So, for all the money that we were making, we were obviously spending way too much of it. We were broke. Again, this is all about the results for us, and our life has changed a lot. My wife no longer works. She stays home and takes care of our 2 kids. I also changed jobs for a better quality of life, but a lot less money. But because of the Dave Ramsey Podcast, we have more money than we ever did before. And we have peace with our finances. Now, Dave Ramsey is super famous. You've probably heard of his baby steps, but most people miss the why behind the steps. The reason behind the steps has to do with how money affects you emotionally. Long story short, risk matters. I could take roughly the $20,000 that we have in our emergency fund and put it into an index fund, a relatively safe investment, and make more money off of that money. But make no mistake, you pay with your peace when you risk financially. When my perspective changed with the help of the Dave Ramsey Podcast, we finally started having financial peace. And that's worth more money than anything. Okay, last up, Wild at Heart, a faith podcast. I've been a Jesus follower since 2012. And before that, a card-carrying atheist, so if you ever want to know about that, let me know in the comments. But everything changed for me when I attended a Wild at Heart boot camp. Now you gotta understand, I've been to a lot of church conferences and gotten a fair bit out of them. But this one was different. It awakened something in my masculinity that I never knew existed before. Now, if you're a Christian, you've probably heard of the book Wild at Heart. It was super famous, but that's only the beginning of the Wild at Heart ministry. Some things I've learned from them are that the Christian life is not just about being a good boy and staying out of trouble. It's not just about duty. I learned that real life is a lot more like Saving Private Ryan than Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. But just listen to the podcast, and I would also recommend that you check out his books. 3 of my favorites are Fathered by God, Resilient, and All Things New. So there you go. If you're looking for a podcast on fitness, money, or faith, those are the recommendations that I make every time. And hey, before you go, the story about how this YouTube channel started is pretty interesting. If you're interested in finding out why we make videos, take a look at this one next.